Memphis is the home of the blues, rock and roll, and Earle Farrell.
From the Collierville Square to the mighty Mississippi, the Earle Farrell for Memphis show is all about good things that happen across the Bluff City and the people who make Memphis cool.
The Earle Farrell for Memphis show is made possible by our title sponsor, Southern Security Federal Credit Union, and by Kathy Thurmond-Edwards, State Farm Insurance.
By Dive Shop and Dive Ventures nationwide. Jim Karras Chevrolet with George Gully, Napa Cafe Memphis and Glenda Hastings, Phoenix Unequaled Home Entertainment, For Memphis Magazine, the Live at the Garden Concert Series, and the Orpheum Theater Group Memphis, and by Mitch Wright Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, family owned and operated for more than 40 years. Thank you to all the sponsors for making this possible.
And now, coming to you from Lansky Brothers, Clothier to the King, inside the world-famous Peabody Hotel with the heart of a cowboy and Memphis in his soul. Ladies and gentlemen, here's your host, Earle Farrell.
And thank you very much, and welcome to the Lansky Brothers, Clothier to the King. I'm clothed by a Lansky jacket right now, as a matter of fact. This is one of my favorite things about doing the show, that and getting everybody else into a jacket, except for my first guest today, Kathy Thurmond-Edwards. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, or afternoon, or whatever.
It is into the afternoon, yes, it is. But you decided not to wear a jacket today because you look so fall-like in your sweater.
I look fall-like in my sweater, and then about 1 o'clock, it was like, it's hot. So it's typical Memphis weather, right?
It is, but it was
know.
actually cool yesterday. We were watching football outside on the deck, and I had to turn my little heater out there if you were in the shade. So it's definitely getting into fall weather.
Right.
It is a special year for you. This is your 35th
year as an agent, and we got voted in the top 3 for best insurance agent by the Flyer this year. Again.
Wow, I saw that. Congratulations. There's your crew.
There's my crew.
And I know all of them, and you've got a very good crew. They all work very, very hard, but they're the best at what they do. That's why you've been around for 35 years.
Yeah, that and stupid.
Yeah, you're so stupid. You've done so well that you don't regret that at all. All of us that knew you back when in the news business go, what the hell were we thinking?
No,
we weren't.
I tell you.
But it's not easy. I tell everybody all the time, I said, I've tried a lot of different things, and there is no easy way of making a living. Mm-mm. And the more detail involved, the harder it is, and you deal with a lot of details constantly.
Constantly, yes. It's been quite a year. We've changed our deductibles. We've had an increase in our umbrella policy, a decrease in our autos. So it's going to be so much fun for the rest of the year and 2026.
Well, no, I called you the other day and said, look, I'm meeting with 5 to 8 people a day.
Yes, I am.
And so
I'm reaching out to everybody who has their homeowner renewal, and we're going over it, and we're finding different things. People have upgraded their kitchen or their bathroom, or they replaced their roof, or whatever they did. We're kind of going over some things. So.
Which is why you're so good at it, though, because a lot of agents, and I've had them, they signed you up, and you never see them again. You don't hear from them, you don't see them.
It's really funny. I had a couple I was calling, and they both, so I can do them virtual, too, which sometimes it really, I forget. I'm getting better at that,
You forget you're on?
Yes, I'm, doing the virtual thing. But so what happens is I called somebody the other day, and I said, okay, let's talk about your homeowners. Well, the husband didn't realize that I was his agent. I guess I dealt with the wife, and he said, are you trying to sell me something? I said, no, I'm actually trying to go over your homeowners. Then he went like, oh, my gosh, are you Kathy? And were we talking with Kathy? I said, yeah, you got me. Anyway, so it was just kind of funny. It's been kind of reconnecting with some I've had for like 30 years, and we almost ended up in a reunion on one of my appointments the other day. I said, well, I don't think I saved you one penny, but it's good to see you.
I know we went to Jeff Bubba Wood's retirement party here a few weeks ago. So here are all these people from the media that we've all known each other for 40, 50 years. And I started to stand up and go, is anybody here not insured by Kathy Thurman? Because
yeah, there's some.
The escapees.
Yeah.
But I think it is, you kind of hired people in in your own image. They really care.
Yes.
They have great attention
They have to
detail.
be nice.
You have to be nice. And you take care of the customers, and that's what y'all do better than anybody else. I was talking to my sister, and in fact, they were out in Texas, and they wanted to know, can we be under Kathy Thurman's insurance?
It's because the rates are higher in Texas.
Yeah. Well, that was one reason. But they looked around and said, it turned out that State Farm was better than, and significantly better than anybody else that they talked to. So a lot of people think, well, I'm probably paying too much, until they start looking around. Then they go, we're staying where we are, because things are changing, and that's one thing about that business is you want somebody that's staying up on it and not calling to tell you that we're canceling you for no reason. Which in California, State Farm just about pulled out of California, haven't they?
Yes,
and
they did, because you wouldn't believe it, and of course, this is insurance jargon, and then you hear one side of the story and the other side of the story, and we're not always right. But when that first started with the fires and stuff, I went, oh my goodness, let me just see what they're paying out there. And they were paying, for example, one showed that they were paying $2,000 a year for $1 million house, $2 million house, $2,500, and we're paying $2,000 a year for a $300,000 house. And of course, Florida's even that much more. But what happens is, and don't want to get into politics, but they elect their insurance commissioner. In Tennessee, is appointed, and they appoint somebody who's got actual insurance knowledge. I think one time it was somebody who was a Farm Bureau dude, and he knew his stuff. And so out there, it's not politically too cool to let them raise rates. So if we don't have enough money to pay the claims, then we start pulling out. So there's always two sides to every story, and I'm sure we got some wackos on both sides.
Well, what happened was that they insured them for $2 million, but then when they figure out that everybody's paying about half of what they should, then they start really going over the claims with the fine-tooth comb and saying, well, I see you didn't do this, and they look for any excuse they can to cancel or not pay everything you're said to. Now, I understand the big problem is they're not getting them permits to rebuild.
Right.
And I don't know who you go to then, because how does the insurance company, if you're getting, I think the federal licensing is being granted. It's the state and local in California that aren't granting the permits to rebuild. How does an insurance company, do you say, we'll pay, but you got to get a license to do it?
You got to get a permit, yeah.
A permit, yeah. And so there's really nothing the insurance company can do.
Yes. If you're going to talk to me about California, I'm zoning out.
I really don't want to talk about California
Let's
either.
talk about how Tennessee is fourth in the nation for wind and hail claims. Can you believe that?
I can.
Fourth in the nation.
Somebody put up a video yesterday of it hailing, and I forget where it was, but it was really coming down. Hail.
It's just really
something. It's so bad in Texas that the car dealerships build these covered parking lots with canvas covers over all the cars, because they have so much hail in Dallas and Fort Worth that it's cheaper for them, and they got the insurance companies to pay for it, because it was wiping out entire 2,000 cars in one hailstorm.
Oh, yeah. And then you have to watch and see if they sell you a car that has hail damage. And, you gotta look over that, because it'll total a car.
Yes.
It will total a car.
We always used to say it looked like somebody went over that car with a ball peen hammer and all these little dents in it. And you can go to these dent places. They can't get them out, but it's very expensive to do that.
Well, when you got one dent, two dents, that's one thing, but you got a whole car that's dent, yeah. I can remember growing up, we had Farm Bureau, I think, and my dad went and said, I've got hail damage on my car. And they said... This is my dad. You remember him, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Thurman, we paid you last month for that hail damage, and you never got it fixed. We can't pay you again. But so anyway.
Well, you can't blame him for trying.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, buddy. Insurance agent's nightmare. Yes, he was.
And now you are one.
Yes. I don't turn in every claim I have, which is like scraping the side of the car at the my garage, maybe. I found a guy who can buff that stuff right out.
I actually had backed into this guy in Collierville a couple of years ago, and he was driving a Mustang 5.0. I remember distinctly. And he was about my age, and it was 10 o'clock in the morning. I was backing out of the cleaners, and I had something in the back of my car, and I just didn't see him. Back into me. He's got all this damage to his front left fender, which is where I barely tapped him.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of damage. And I sat there and went, I couldn't have done that. And he said, oh, it'll be all right. We can buff that out. I said, fella, there ain't no buffing in the world going to get that out. I just think he had a wreck someplace else, and when I backed into him, he hit the same place. And I think he may have had an issue with pills or something because he acted kind of strange.
So he just didn't.
He didn't want to call the police, nothing. I went, I'm with you. And fortunately, there's no damage to my car, but it is true. Don't turn in every little thing that happens to your car. Some things are just get them fixed yourself and don't make the claim. Because
Yeah, if only my dad had done that when we were young. I was young. He was younger. And
your dad was younger than you?
Yeah, I can remember our Farm Bureau agent said, I kept you as long as the company let me, young lady.
But you're out now.
Yeah, we're out now. And so when I became a State Farm agent, I would go home, and he would, my dad had the restaurant and motel then. That's what we did, our livelihood. And he would sit there and drinking his coffee. He said, you got anybody that drives as bad as you do, young lady? And I went, I'm in Memphis. Why, yes. But he was funny. He was a good guy. And I think that's how Daddy ended up with State Farm.
Yeah.
Farm Bureau said bye.
But he ended up being an agent, your dad? Or just,
you get that story wrong every time.
Because I always
My
thought...
dad worked in a shoe factory.
Yeah.
He was a supervisor.
Yeah.
They all went down under, and so to Mexico, and so everybody in town had to find something else to do for a living. Shirt factory, shoe factory, they all left, and so this guy talked him into buying a 21-room motel called the Sands Motel and a meat and three restaurant. Okay, and that's where I grew up. I waited on tables and cleaned rooms and learned about
people
and
yeah, when they stay overnight in your place, you learn a lot about them.
Or if they don't stay all night, hey, go on down there and clean that room. I can rent it again for the night's over.
You get a twofer.
Yeah, I get a twofer. So it was fun, though. My mother and a lady called Miss Lillian, and her granddaughter and I went to school together, but she and my mom could cook. Oh, my goodness. Strawberry cobbler. See, meat and three vegetables.
And they used to do that,
tea.
meat and three. Now it's meat and two.
Yeah. We had meat and three and dessert and tea and everything, and it was
sweet
like
tea.
$3 or $4. I don't know, maybe $5, and that sent me to college. But I did not inherit an insurance agency from my daddy.
I don't know who started that.
You did.
I did not start
I know,
that.
yeah,
I am not a
what's up
rumor
with this?
starter. I'm a rumor propagator. But
Blue collar to the max. I mean,
well.
Hey, who is that we worked to CNN?
Natalie Allen.
Natalie Allen. I'm sitting by her at the news station one night at the desk, and I'm sure I was covering it boring school board, and I'm sitting there, and she's sitting here, and maybe Jerry Tate was over here at the time, but she was saying something about, I don't know what it was, but I always loved to gross her out. I'd go like, Natalie, I didn't have an indoor toilet till I was 5. Ew. Have you ever heard of a slop jar? I mean, I was really grossing her out. But that was the way I grew up. And I was talking to somebody in my office the other day. We were going like, I didn't have one till I was 4. And he said, I didn't have one till I was in the 11th grade. I said, okay, you got me beat.
You know who else also grew up in a situation like that was our friend who just passed away a few weeks ago, Bill Morris, the former sheriff and mayor.
We both were from Etowah County. Yeah.
Etowah County, and he loved the fact that you grew up just like he did. In fact, I think you were both on one of my shows on radio. Yeah. And it was like a light went on in both your eyes because nobody appreciates that unless you've lived that.
Yes.
And
he was much more much poorer than I was. And, of course, he was older, but I think I'm the same age as his son. But he read 1 Corinthians 13 in my first wedding. It wasn't his fault it didn't last. But anyway, I've always just adored that man because he's like he was just what you saw is what you got, and I've pretty much been like that too. So.
He never put on airs of any kind, and he was just Bill. No. And if you liked you, you knew it.
And you know what I learned at the funeral was how much he did to get St. Jude here.
Yeah,
and it's probably just because he didn't put on airs or anything like that, and said, "Boom." So.
He went in with a bunch of people from Memphis, said, "This is how bad we want you, and this is what we'll do for you to come here." And there wasn't even a discussion after that. They said, "We're going to Memphis," which when I got to Memphis, I remember meeting Danny Thomas and Marlowe, and they just finished that gold rotunda thing outside the front of the main building. And now look at all the construction going on over there now. There's 2 or 3 towers being built at the same time.
Oh,
it's amazing.
It is amazing. It's a great place. And then I just got back from Florida with about 15 female State Farm agents. We have a study group, and we were discussing different things, rates, whatever, all the things you do with a big corporation. But then when I point out, and they always make fun, says, "Okay, Memphis, what you got?" And I said, "We got FedEx, we got St. Jude, we got AutoZone, we got a great medical center. What you got?" That kind of thing. So always doing that. But and then of course the girl from Chicago was jealous because we had the National Guard, but that's a whole nother story.
And she can't get in Chicago because the mayor and the governor won't let them in.
Yeah, but they were just picking on me. But it was. We have a lot here in Memphis to be excited about. We just got to dwell on that more than we do the negative.
Which is why we do this show.
And some people just love to dwell on the negative.
Well, not on this show, because we talk about the positive. And I got to tell you, the traffic, have you noticed how people are driving the speed limit now on the interstate and all the main thoroughfares? And everybody that's out on the street going, "Can you believe it? Look, everybody's in line. They're stopping at the lights." And all it takes is just a little bit of enforcement.
Yeah.
So I'm very glad. In fact, I have not seen any National Guard. I've seen Tennessee Highway Patrol. I've seen U.S. Marshals and Sheriff's Office of MPD. And they pulled over a lot of people on the interstate. But I come to the interstate downtown every time I come, and I feel much safer. People are not driving crazy.
So, did you go to see the Orpheum show this year, the first one of the season?
Yes.
Beautiful Noise.
Yes, we did. It was Neil Diamond.
Neil Diamond.
It was absolutely, and when they played So Good, Sweet Caroline.
Yes.
And I told the story because we had Brett Batterson on before the show. And I said, I'd heard that Neil Diamond actually wrote that song in a Memphis hotel. And I said, I'd heard it was the Peabody. Mm-hmm. And he goes, "You might want to check that."
Might want to check that.
Because in the show.
It's kind of like my dad having an insurance agency.
Yes,
it's probably not right.
Not true. But I did facilitate that story. But I said, I will check. And it turns out, because they even mentioned it in the show, that he was in not a very well appointed motel. It
could have been my dad's motel. I'm sure that's where it happened.
It was in Memphis, and it was. They didn't describe it as a wonderful place, but he said he was in this crappy motel room writing "Sweet Caroline." But it's a great story, and the music's in it's great, and I thoroughly enjoyed the show.
It was really good. No, you're talking about some positive things. We're trying to hit every restaurant that we can because but I still love to go to BB King's before a show. It's so we went to BB King's before this show.
Did you go to Itabena or BB's?
BB's restaurant.
Itabena is upstairs.
Itabena is probably my favorite, but they wanted to go to BB King's
because the food
because the music was good, the people were there. And I ran into some, who's all here from, Texas, Canada, whatever. And they were there from, a couple was there from London.
Wow.
And I said, we just got back from London. And I said, we, hit all the restaurants and bars in London. And she said, and they were there and they'd gone to Graceland and they were here a couple of days and they're going to go on. But I was glad that they, were at BB King's and the band was good. And
Well, the food's really good. In fact,
their
BB's has
burgers
one.
are so good.
Just going to say that the burger's probably the best in town. The ribs are really good, and so Edabina's good. But
If you go to Itabina's, you need to get the the right. Oh, sea bass, really?
Yeah.
I'll have to try that because I love sea bass, but also the shrimp and grits.
Where is it your friend Pat did not like the shrimp and grits?
I'm not going to say.
She's not going to say because
This
we don't
is
want
a
to cast
positive show.
Well,
What's wrong with you?
I like
Zip it
it.
up,
I'll tell you
it
later.
wasn't me. It was Pat.
Pat.
Yeah,
Pat Rayner.
Pat Rayner.
Oh, okay. I was going like know a
Yeah.
lot of Pats. Okay.
She has a very strong opinion about everything.
Oh, okay.
So I try to stay on the positive side, and she goes wherever she wants. So
It's kind of like, on my Facebook is going to be dogs and cats and whatever. We're presenting a check on Friday to Pure Power, if you've ever heard about that.
Pure Power.
Oh, my goodness. It's, I'm trying to think who started it. A Memphis man, very famous, and now I can't think of it. But anyway, they have kids from University of Memphis go and tutor kids in high school and bring them up like a peer and all this kind of thing. And one of my customers, Rudy Short, I met with him when he got his driver's license at 16. Then he had about 3 accidents after that. So I'll bring him back someday. But he's
Richardson?
who?
Courtney Richardson?
That is somebody who works there. But look who founded Pure Power, and they have the big brace down here. If you say the name, it'll go like, oh. Anyway,
we got Beth, our crack researcher,
Yeah.
on it.
Charles McKean?
that's McCain.
McVean.
Charles McVean. Now, you've heard that name.
I have.
He started that. It is awesome. So I got involved in it because this kid came and asked me. And so now every year I just kind of do it. So that and the food bank, there's a lot of local charities my team tries to kind of be involved in every year.
Well, and that's one thing we try to point out here, that our sponsors just don't sponsor the show. They're very much involved in Memphis and making Memphis a better place to live, work, raise your kids, your family. And every one of y'all, every one of my sponsors are very involved in the community on an ongoing basis.
Napa does a lot.
Yes.
Napa Cafe. She
Glenda
does.
Hastings, yeah.
Yes. We usually have our Christmas party there like every other year. And I know this is crazy, but she has this Gouda
Cheese.
risotto to die for.
Well, remember Chris Schmidt and you and myself and
Don't tell all our secrets. That's a little, what do you call it? This little room that's
inside
inside the wine
cellar, yeah,
sitting in there.
And you could get that, and we're loud, hard to believe, but we're all loud broadcast people.
We're loud.
So they stick us in there, and you could get as loud as you want. And the food is always great. The service is amazing.
Yes.
We're going to be in there touring it, I think, Wednesday night. I'm going to be down. They're having a wine tasting. I'm going to go shoot that. Have her on. We'll talk about that. Anything else you need to impart on our...
Let's see. What else am I imparting on there? Let's see. I think your resolution should be, like we always say, is go around the house and take pictures of your stuff, your personal property, because you will forget if you have a fire or a theft. And let's see. And then come down to the Peabody and go to the female landscape, where I'll be going next, and buy some nice new little baubles. And let's
get ready
see,
for the
got some new restaurants downtown, so I'm going to check those out. But but in insurance world, be sure and call your agent. And if you are shopping your rates, which I encourage, make sure you call us so you're getting apples to apples. Because the other day we found out that they had left off replacement cost and uninsured motorists. So, you got to...
Things like that.
Yeah, think little things like
Kind
that.
of important.
But we're not always the cheapest, never have been.
Well, but you're the best.
Most of the
one
time.
thing you taught me is that they don't all do the same thing. I mean, you have a wreck, and with you, replace it with factory parts.
Yeah. So I had a phone call Sunday morning at 9 because somebody had an accident, and I picked up that cell phone right away. So we try to be very accessible. So
And you
anyway,
always have been. Give them a phone number if they got any other questions they didn't get answered here.
901-767-7744. 901-767-7744.
And look for Kathy Thurmond-Edwards in a bar or restaurant near you, because she'll be there soon.
We got plenty on Brookhaven Circle.
Yes, you do.
Got it, yeah.
Now I know why you built there.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Kathy Thurmond, thank you, and we'll see you next time. We'll be right back to hear from some of our other sponsors.
Hi, I'm Dawn Grader, President and CEO of Southern Security Federal Credit Union. We're the proud title sponsor of the Earle Farrell for Memphis show. Coming to you live from Lansky's in the world-famous Peabody Hotel and celebrating all of the great things about our great city, Memphis, Tennessee.
Hi, I'm Glenda Hastings, owner of Napa Cafe, and I'm so proud to be part of the Earle Farrell for Memphis show, streaming live from Lansky's from the Peabody. We will be showcasing not only Napa Cafe, but some great restaurants around town. We look forward to seeing you.
Hello, Memphis Mid-South. And first, I'd like to thank you for visiting with Earle Farrell Memphis today, and we want to support him just like you do. I'm George Gully, one of the sales managers at Jim Carris Chevrolet. We've been in business here in Memphis for over 75 years. I've been associated with the company for almost 25, and I'll help you find the right car, truck, or SUV here at not only our Chevy store, but also Buick, GMC, Nissan, Subaru. We can help you find that right car. Keep watching Earle and come see me. Thanks so much.
Hi, I'm Kathy Thurmond-Edwards, State Farm, and I'm so excited to be one of the sponsors for the Earle Farrell from Memphis show, broadcasting live from Lansky's at the Peabody. And I'll tell you all about what we've got going on at our office. Gift cards for quotes. No purchase necessary. I'm better looking than a lizard.
And she is. Welcome back. Joining me now is a good friend and a big part of Memphis history in the music business, John J.T. Novarese. Good day to you, and welcome to the show.
Good to see you, Earl.
When I first met you, I was most impressed because I said, you know who he is? I said, J.T. Novarese. They said, his daddy and your dad's brother, was that who started Poplar Tunes?
Yeah, it was actually my grandfather.
Your grandfather?
Yeah.
But it was your family. You grew up there. Mm-hmm. I remember when I first got to Memphis, they said this is where Elvis bought his first record.
True.
And you go in there, and I tell you what it reminds me of, a lot of kids may still remember this, was Blockbuster. Mm-hmm. Everybody went with their family to Blockbuster on Friday night to get popcorn, candy bars, pick out a movie, and that was Pop Tunes. Everybody on Saturday morning, probably more, and went and checked out the new records that were in, what was number one, listened to records. And that was it was the center of the universe for young people, because everybody bought records those days.
Right.
And that's where you went.
Yeah, I mean, it was a social thing, right? I mean, it was way more than just going to shop for records.
Yeah, no, it was, you went to see who was there. And I mean, you think about it, where else could you go? You go to a mall shop. You go to school, that's where kids were, but after school, and all, where did you run into your friends? And it was the record store. Same in Odessa, West Texas, where I grew up. We would walk to this little record store, and you'd save up. I think a 45 was $1 back in those days.
Right.
And your allowance was 50 cents a week. You'd save up for 2 weeks to get a 45. But you did, because that was the cool thing. When you get in junior high, you had to buy records, because otherwise you weren't cool.
Well, yeah, and the other thing that not a lot of people know, especially the younger generation, because the shop's been gone for a while, right? But my grandfather and his partner Joe Coogie, they were really pioneers in the early days of being in the record business. One of the things that they did before, I mean, nowadays, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal because we get our music instantaneous, right? But they put demo records in the aisles of the stores back then, and in every aisle there was a record player. So this was a little bit before, my time, but you were welcome just to browse instead of, browsing for, records, like to buy them. I mean, you were browsing them, just to see what was there. And then if it was something you were interested in, you just put it on the record player and listen to it.
Did you have headsets?
No, I mean, there was listening booths. That's another thing. that they had as well. But no, I mean these players were blaring,
Wow.
in the aisles. So, one of the stories that, again, it was a little bit different by the time I came around, but they said the stores was just rocking because you had players in every
bleeding
aisle.
over to each other, so there was all kinds of music.
Right. And it was a social thing, and people were dancing in the aisles and the whole 9 yards. And then, if you found a record you wanted, because you might not have known anything about the album except for, maybe the song you heard on the radio.
Yeah.
Then you would bring that to the counter, and they would pull you a fresh one that you could buy.
So this was not a demo that had scratches on it from so many people playing it.
Well, I'm sure at some point it did.
We got some photographs. Let's go through some of them, and you tell me what we're looking at.
Okay.
This first one up is, and was there a difference between Pop Tunes and Poplar Tunes?
So yeah, I mean there is. It's the same company, okay, but Poplar Tunes was the original store, and the original store is the one you see here on the left, and that was at 306 Poplar. I've got another picture of it. I don't think I sent it to you, but the picture that you were just on was really cool because the original store at 306, and then the new store is at 308 Poplar, which is right next door. It's the building that still exists. It's still there today at Poplar and Danny Thomas. But my granddad would tell the story. They had to build the new store because back then Poplar was only 2 lanes. So when they were, and you can see how close the front of the store was to the street.
Curb, yeah.
So when they were expanding, they were literally going to take out, half the store. So the back corner of the old record shop kind of touched the front corner of the new shop, as it were. And then, anyway, then they moved. And then that was, I think, in 60 is when the new store was open.
When did you realize what a cool business your dad and granddad had started? Were you like a little kid?
Growing up around stuff like that, I don't know that I realized how cool it was. But, I mean, I grew up listening to, artists that, my family knew very well, like Al Green. So, and of course Elvis and that kind of
Jerry
thing.
Lee. I mean, anybody that was in the music business, not even the ones that hadn't made it or maybe never made it, you went to Poplar Tunes because that's where you bought records. Were there even other record stores in town then?
There probably were, a couple little mom and pops here and there, but
nothing like you guys.
But along the way, the other thing that they did was kind of pioneering. Is prior to there being big distributors, like happened, in subsequent years, they started buying records from all the little sub-distributors or what have you, whoever was carrying that, and they located it all in the back of our store and eventually built a warehouse. So we were known as what was called a one-stop.
Yeah, I saw that sign.
Back
I wonder
then.
what that meant.
So, I mean, it was a one-stop shop, right, for jukebox operators.
Did you buy underwear there? That would have got me in the door.
One stop in records. But so that was, jukebox operators, radio stations, and then mom and pop record shops all throughout the Southeast. So as a result, that footprint, grew pretty strong, and they were a pretty formidable force, just in terms of their buying power at that time.
Wouldn't Jack Salmon's family, weren't they in the jukebox business and the pinball machine business?
Correct.
They also sold shuffle boards because they sold one day. Elvis, Jack was on and told us about that.
Right.
But so all these people were coming there for different reasons.
Right.
But they all had a relationship with your family. In fact, this is a picture. Is that your dad and his partner?
Okay, so the guy in the middle is Dewey Phillips, and he had
Red, White, and Blue.
Red, Hot, and Blue on WHBQ. And then the guy on the right is Joe Coogie, who was my granddad's partner.
Okay.
And the guy on the left was a singer.
Yeah. Who shall remain nameless forever.
Right.
And here's that same nameless figure.
It's the same evening, in fact, and he was just, the photographers just getting pictures of him, browsing around the store and stuff like that. One of the cool things back then when he started getting popular, rewind a little bit. Before he got popular, Elvis would come in the store during his lunch break when he was driving the truck for Crown Electric. And
I keep hearing all these stories about when he was on his lunch break, he would go pick up his girlfriend, and then on his lunch break, he had a lot of lunch breaks.
He must have had a long lunch break. I don't know. Well, I mean, even prior to that, he lived in Lauderdale Courts, which is right behind the shop, so he was in there literally all the time. But once he cut his first record, and he was still working for Crown, he'd come in the shop. There was a Coke machine there. The family still has the Coke machine, which is kind of cool. He'd buy a Coke, listen to some records, whatever. And there's a story that Joe Coogee was playing one of his records one day, and he was really shy. And he was talking to the customer, Joe was, and said, "Do you like that record?" And he says, "Yeah, I like it a lot." And he said, "Well, the boy that recorded it is right there."
Wow.
And he said Elvis would get so embarrassed he would literally try to hide behind the Coke machine.
Well, I read in the account of him coming there, he said he used to kind of hide in the corner and see who came in to buy his records or comment on what they thought about a new record release.
Yeah.
And I hear that a lot about the early years, how shy he was. In fact, we had the daughter of Dixie, and I can't remember her last name, his first girlfriend.
Okay.
From high school. In fact, he was out of high school, I think, when he met her. And she talked about how shy he was. And came over to her house, and her parents said, "Why don't y'all just hang out here and have dinner?" And he goes, "That's great with me."
Well, so another thing that was kind of interesting is once he got starting to get famous and more popular, he couldn't go and shop
anywhere
on his lunch break anymore or any other time. So he would call my granddad and Joe and ask him if he could come by after hours, and they would leave. They would lock the shop up at night, and they would keep it open for him, and they'd stay there for hours.
Same thing here at Lansky's. I mean, he would call and say, I want to come shop. Later on, Hal would load up stuff in the Lansky panel van and take it to Graceland and just lay it out and whatever he liked. What I loved about his father, Bernard, was whatever they sold to Elvis, he would buy hundreds more just like it.
Right.
And then he would put it in the store and have like three different size shirts that it said Elvis just bought that shirt, and they would sell hundreds of them.
I bet. Yeah.
Bernard was an ultimate salesman. Let's see what we got here. Now this is Pop Tunes. Is this out on Summer, or is this?
Yeah, this was our summer store, and this was actually after we did a little bit of a renovation, because I can tell by looking at the sign on the building. We took it from the way it was. It had plexiglass covering the letters, and when we redid it, I left the neon exposed in there, so it lit up.
Yeah, you could see it.
Yeah.
And then there's this 50 years of rock and roll.
Yeah, so we celebrated our 50-year anniversary in '96. Had a whole year worth of activities around that.
When did you finally close Poplar Tunes?
Well, I sold the company in 2001. And I like to tell people, it was the hardest deal I've ever done in my life from an emotional standpoint.
Sure.
From a business standpoint, I mean,
smart move.
The writing was on the wall.
You knew what was happening in the industry.
Yeah, we had at the time all the major record labels had offices in Atlanta, regional offices. And when Napster came out, and I experienced my first download. And again, talking about it now seems kind of silly because our whole world is different, right?
Yeah.
The way we consume music. But I said, this is serious. So I went to Atlanta and met with all the majors and said, hey, what are we going to do about this? And one thought, I said, hey, protect your retailers. Broadband wasn't prevalent yet. I said, let's get
dial-up.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I said, let's get broadband into our stores and have a situation where we can burn CDs on demand. That way you can at least have some integrity of the product itself, because, Napster was peer-to-peer, right? So you didn't know what you were getting and all that kind of stuff. Every one of them, without fail, was, we're going to be okay, you're going to be okay. They said, we survived, 12 records for a penny. Remember that in the Sunday papers and stuff like that. They said, everything's going to be fine. And I knew then I had to sell.
Not only were you not going to be fine, they were lying to you.
Well, I think that they just thought it was going to be like that forever, and it wasn't.
Here's another view of Poplar Tunes. Sadly, this building as it is right there in the photograph is still configured the same.
Right.
It was a bail bonds company for
right.
a while. Now it's nothing. It's just abandoned.
Yeah, and this picture was taken after we sold the company. I can tell because I never had that awning like that over the side.
I think Jimmy Ogle stole whatever he could before he finally got out of there. He's got, I got a sign, I got this, I got some bricks.
Well, good for him.
Yeah. But then this was a special night, Pop Tunes. That's the marquee at the Orpheum Theater.
Yeah, I just thought that was a cool picture.
Yeah.
So at our 50th anniversary, we celebrated with a big event at the Orpheum. Willie Mitchell put the band together.
Wow.
It was kind of a star-studded event, all, local artists or at least regional artists, and we did some stuff on Beale Street as well.
Well, it's because it was part of everybody's life. I mean, that was the one thing that brought everybody together. If you want to know what was number one that week, you went to Poplar Tunes.
Right.
And you guys even started putting out kind of a newsletter saying what the sales like were in Memphis, because as Memphis was, so was the world.
Yeah, we created our own charts. Sure did.
And this is an interesting, in fact, this is going to be our next guest, but you can comment on it.
Okay.
Mick Jagger and Billy Preston. And there was an album that our next guest, Robert Johnson, played the guitar on. And Mick Jagger loved him. Everybody did. I mean, he's got it incredible. So we'll be talking about that. And I also want his input on your store.
Yeah.
But what an incredible... career in music from your perspective. Did you did chicks always try to get free records from you? How'd that work?
I don't remember that.
But Your Honor, I don't recall any of that.
I'll say this. I went to a few concerts over the years and got to meet a few artists over the years, and that certainly was a nice perk.
Well, it's just it was probably the zenith of the record business when y'all were at the height of the popularity of Poplar Tunes. And I just remember when Peaches came to town and the really big stores, but it was at the very end of that whole run, and they didn't last long. Yeah. And then you saw what happened to Blockbuster, and everybody thought, well, this will never die. It died. I guess the whole thing about business is you got to stay alert and attuned to what changes are going on. They just seem to happen faster and faster now than ever before.
Yeah, and I mean, with the entertainment industry, I mean, media has just gone through, substantial changes, over the last 2 decades. I mean, Blockbuster or the whole, video rental business, I mean, that was about a 10-year run.
Yeah.
We were around for 50 years at least. So, I mean, who would have thought that the days of buying a record and physically in a store, would go away, and then you could just get them on your phone nowadays.
Well, now people are selling 20 million albums or records over the internet worldwide, and look how many people's jobs have been lost because of that. But other people have found a way to be still involved in the music business and how to promote themselves. I mean, there are artists now, especially a lot of the young country guys, going to town selling CDs out of the trunk of their car until they get enough people to start buying them online. But
well, that's been going on for years. But the industry is flipped. It used to be that artists almost gave away shows so they could sell albums, right? And now
and merch.
And now they pretty much give away music. But when they tour,
they get their money back.
That's what they're charging for. So, I mean, I remember the first concert I actually had to buy a ticket to.
That's a bummer, wasn't it?
Yeah, I didn't enjoy that very much.
You're like Ron Olson. If I got to pay to play golf or go to a concert, I don't go. So that's the way it works. Do you miss it at all?
Oh, I miss it. I miss it all the time. When I started in high school, and I worked at every one of our stores. And then, I went to college here in town, so I stayed through college. I never really intended on it being a career. When I graduated, I was interviewing, and my granddad, I'd tell him, because my granddad, working with my granddad is like one of the greatest things that ever happened to me. I used to say I got my degree from the brothers, but I got my education from my grandfather. And he was my confidant. I told him everything. So
you tell him stuff you wouldn't tell your dad.
Pretty much, yeah. But
grandfathers are a lot more forgiving than daddies.
Absolutely, but he was cool, but he was smart. And I remember going over some of my job offers or whatever, and he had a funny way about how he said stuff, and he said, "Well, you could stay here," and that was my job offer.
Or you can stay here.
Right.
Well, it's sort of like Bernard with Hal and now Julie. Family businesses are very unique, and you learn about life. I remember the stories of Bernard, because I did a video biography for Bernard's family, and interviewed everybody he knew. Hal and I spent a lot of time together, him pulling old 8mm videos that Bernard had taken. And you realize the closeness of working with your family in a family-run business. And so I can imagine it was very difficult to sell that, but at the same time, as a business person, you have to look at reality and say this is the smart thing to do. And I'm sure you consulted with a lot of people over it.
Well, sure, and and you asked me if I miss it. I miss it every day, and I miss the industry, but I miss our people. We had some people that were just phenomenal, and they were family. I was thinking earlier, one of the guys I sent you a picture of, Jimmy Burge. His name is synonymous with the record shop. He started working when he was probably in high school or college, when our first satellite store, the store on Summer, was sharing space with the peanut shop.
Wow.
And the business got so big it outgrew the peanut shop, and that's when it moved down the street, and that's the store that had the big record, sign.
Yeah. Well, the peanut shop is still around, which tells you a lot. In fact, Beth and Rob, who both work on the show, are huge aficionados of the peanut shop.
Yeah.
Pat Rayner, who we've had on the show,
sure,
she was worked there. She scolded me for calling it Pop Tunes. She goes, "That was not Pop Tunes.
Right.
That was Poplar Tunes." I went,
yeah.
Well, something was Pop Tunes because.
Right. Well, so obviously, the main store was named after the street,
yes.
Right? So when we started, I say we, it was pre my time, but when they started expanding, it made sense just to kind of drop the Poplar. Yeah, and really, kind of accidentally, it was a perfect name for a record shop.
Absolutely, and that's all I ever called it. Nobody ever called it Poplar Tunes. When I moved here in '78, it was, you got to go to Pop Tunes. Everybody hangs out there, and they still were.
So I think at the time we sold it, we had 10 stores, and they were all they were all Pop Tunes.
Yeah, Well, it was a wonderful time in Memphis, and I try to bring up good times, and because more good times are coming. And the great thing about Memphis, it's such an innovative city. With people always thinking of things, how to keep the good things going and evolve out of the bad things. And that's kind of why we're downtown doing the show, because downtown is cooler than it ever has been since I've been here.
It truly is. We had a chance to be downtown last weekend for my son's wedding, and we actually stayed here at the Peabody, and it was so great being downtown. There's so much energy and so much good stuff going on right now.
And hopefully with all the attention to helping stop speeders, you really stop crime by starting with that.
I've been saying that for years.
Yeah. I think they call it the broken window syndrome in New York City. That if you stop people when they break windows, they'll never end up stealing cars.
Right.
And because it is a progression.
Right.
And if they know that you'll pull them over, and if the offense is bad enough, if there's any outstanding warrants, they go to jail. They either won't get on the streets, which I think a lot of that's happening now, or B, if they are, they'll pay their tickets and don't want to go to jail. So,
the lines around the Wonder Halbert's offices these days are long.
Everybody's getting with the law.
Everybody wants to get rid of those, temporary tags now.
Well, my advice to everybody is, you don't have a thing to worry about from the National Guard, the police, the sheriff's office, or the highway patrol. if you're obeying the law.
Right.
And that's what the rest of us do. So
Right.
join us, please. JT Novarese, thank you for stopping by.
Thanks
and
for
you've got
thanks for
another
having me.
big thing you're working on. We can't talk about it today, but as soon as it happens, you come back on the show and we'll blow people away with that.
Yeah, that's a cool project too. No, I'd be happy to bring it by when we can.
Well, let's do it when we can. All right, thank
All right,
you,
man.
sir.
Good to see you.
We're going to take a quick break, and then we got Robert Johnson coming in. Jordan came from basketball. I don't know where they came. This guy's a musician and an incredible one. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Randy Wright from the Dive Shop and Dive Ventures in Memphis. We've been in Memphis over 64 years teaching people to dive, snorkel, and swim. We'd love to have you come join us and have some fun. We're also a part of the Dive Ventures group with 18 locations across the country, stretched from Phoenix to Vienna, Virginia. Please give us a call. We'll be able to take care of you at 999 South Yates in Memphis, or call us at 901-763-DIVE.
Hi, I'm Brett Batterson, President and CEO of the Orpheum Theater Group in downtown Memphis. We are so pleased with our partnership with the Earle Farrell Show and very happy that he is broadcasting live from Lansky's at the historic Peabody Hotel. We're all here to make Memphis better.
Hi, I'm Mitch Wright. And I'm his son, Mickey. And we're the owners of Mitch Wright Plumbing, Heating, and Air.
And proud sponsors of the Earle Farrell for Memphis show.
We're thankful to be part of the Memphis community. We've been in business for 42 years, taking care of people and loving the people of the Mid-South.
Hey, my name is Jake. I'm with Phoenix Unequaled Home Entertainment. I just wanted to introduce myself and kind of what I do here at Phoenix. I'm a sales engineer. A lot of the times we talk about home theaters, but there's so much more that we offer. We offer a lot of home security solutions, as well as water detection and everything. So if you guys ever need anything, give us a call. We'll get you guys fixed up.
And, of course, that is my next guest playing with the Rolling Stones, Robert Johnson. Welcome to the show, Robert.
Thank you.
God, I'm looking at the cover of that album, and Billy Preston, Mick Jagger, and they look so young.
We all were, yes. Very
But
young.
what a career you've had. Fraser Boy.
Yes,
and
sir.
Ended up growing up with a bunch of other famous people. Did you have any clue then that you were growing up with some of the top musicians in Memphis history?
A little bit, yeah. They were neighbors as well as friends, the parents' friends, and, it was sort of taken for granted. But, deep down I knew who they were.
But, I grew up in Odessa, Texas, and Roy Orbison grew up in Wheat, not far away, but there was no other famous people that ever came out of there. And you knew people you liked, and they were your friends. You grew up with them, but none of them grew up to be people like you grew up with. It's almost like there was something, because if you think about all the different musicians who were cranking out incredible music at all the different studios in Memphis at the same time, it is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, you had, Detroit that was doing their thing, but really no other city in the world was cranking it out like Memphis, Tennessee.
Not at all. It was just a very special time, especially, mid-50s up into the 60s, 69, 71. It was just one hit record after the other.
And the different people, did you pick the guitar yourself, or did you have a friend that played? Did you figure I'll learn from him, or what was it about the guitar that...
Just Elvis, obviously, and, was a big influence, but just growing up around guitars, they were just, everybody had one in my neighborhood. You'd be riding your bicycle, and there'd be three old guys sitting on the porch with Gibson and Martin guitars just banging away, so it's hard to miss it, because everybody had a guitar in the home. thanks to OK Houck Music Store down here. 121 Union across the street. They were the only ticket in the Mid-South, and it was easy to get a good guitar from them.
Do you look back and does it amaze you, the career you've had? Because you could have just as easily done that for a while and became a car mechanic, or done that for a while and gone into insurance sales. But I guess if you have passion for music, it never really leaves.
No, it doesn't leave, and I guess you get used to working with professionals, and you are who you hang out with, so.
Which is a clue for everybody out there, whether it's music business or not. Find the best people at what they do, and if that's what you want to do, hang out with those people, because you will benefit from it.
Well, if your playing is as good as theirs, there's no reason why you can't play with them, is what I always thought.
Well, Beth made some notes here. It said you grew up in Fraser, surrounded by musicians like Bill Black, Roland James, Bobby Blue Bland. Close at 1978, close personal friend, debuted, helped start the power pop movement of the 1960s pop and hard rock. At 17, you worked in the mailroom at Stax. I mean, how did you even get to the mailroom at Stax? That was a long way from where you lived.
Well, it was pretty easy. I think it was the 10th grade class had a field trip from Trezevin High School. So I went down there with your buddy Carl Sledwitz and other people in the class. So we took a school bus down to Stax, and they had, the tour for students to see how records were made. But I'd already been in studios, and I met that day when I walked in a gentleman named William Brown, who was in a band called the Mad Lads. And before I went down there, I went to the typing room and typed my name on some cardboard with my parents' phone number on it, put guitarist, and went to the art room and an X-Acto knife and made me a couple of business cards. So I handed it to William Brown and says, if you ever need a guitar player, call me. And he goes, you don't look like a guitar player. And I said, anyway, he ended up calling me a week later, and they had a gig to play. And obviously, I was the only white kid in the band. And so I ended up going and playing this wonderful party. And then he said, I said, how can I get a job at the studio? And he said, well, you can work with me in the mail room, and we can send out promo copies to the DJs, mail them and stuff. So we're in there and we're licking all these envelopes, and I'm going, man, this tastes like crap. I said, let's go across the dollar store and get a sponge and some water, and I can talk to you. So he said, well, that's a good idea. So that's what happened then, and I just kept hanging around, and the next thing you know, I'm in the Isaac Hayes band and touring around the world.
Isaac Hayes, I read where you, he heard you play, and he said, I want that guy in my band. And you came and joined the band, and that was it. I mean, you were in.
Yeah, we were, the first job, we went out to the Bobby Manuel was teaching me all the licks, and I was learning a lot from him because he grew up with my Uncle Barry, who was a drummer. And, we played the Fillmore, and we played just everywhere, Madison Square Garden, Honolulu, the Apollo Theater for a week, with the David Frost Show. We were just doing everything.
And how old were you then?
17.
Were you not pinching yourself, or was it just that was your life? That's what was going on?
Yeah, it was just just being. I'd already played with Jerry Lee and Carl Perkins, at 15, 16, kind of like that. And I remember one time Charlie Rich called our house and heard about me and was needing a guitar player, and my mother answered the phone, and he said, "It's Charlie Rich. I want to see if your son would play." And my mother says, "My son don't play in no damn beer joints." Hung the phone up on
you go, "Wait a minute, Mama. Wait a minute. You don't know where I've been." It said, got a recording engineer degree from Ardent, and recorded Wishbone Ash and Leonard Skinner. Ardent, who has recently undergone a huge transformation. In fact, we're going to have Mark Danger on. But that's so historic. I know Stax was, but the groups that went through Ardent, just amazing. And I didn't even know they had an engineering program there.
Well, it was very short-lived. It was 1972 when they first opened up, and I think it was only went maybe one course or maybe two, and they just discontinued. It was Rick Ireland, who was one of the big tech guys there, and electronic genius, and he was buddies with John Fry. They were some kind of partnership, and so the teachers was John Fry and Rick Ireland, and they had the classes at Southwest Community College, and then we'd leave there and go back to Ardent and get the hands-on experience. But I was already in there for a few years.
Before that, anyway.
Already had my hands on everything. But here's the funny thing about it is Diane Davis was the secretary there, and they grew up in our neighborhood, and Buddy Davis was a good friend of mine, a guitar player. She ended up marrying Fred Smith, who was John Fry's partner.
Yeah.
But we would ride to each other to the class, because my car was broke or her car was broke, and we'd ride and get to the class because she was taking the class too, but she was also working there. That was
And this was Diane?
Yeah.
Well, I just remember I had a place downtown called Sleep Out Louie's. And Diane would call, so we're coming in. Can we come through the back door with all our kids and come in and sit at the back booth? Because Fred doesn't like to make a big fuss or anything. I said, absolutely. They love coming there, but I got to be around him another time when we were trying to get an NFL team. But what a huge contribution to Memphis, Tennessee.
Absolutely, yeah. And those were just, the 70s were just rocking along, as well. It was really a fun time.
Well, it still is. We go through some of the other things here. Worked at Steve Cropper's studio, Trans Maximus, where he connected with Jeff Beck and sold him a modified guitar called the Oxblood, and it sold for over $1 million at auction after Beck's death. Was in England in '72 through his Nicky Hopkins connection, auditioned with the Rolling Stones to replace Mick Taylor. The Built This Way song is an outtake which we played. Is that the one we're going to play, or is that the one we just played?
We played that.
At the beginning of the show. Toured with John Entwistle, The Who.
Entwistle. He was the bass player of The Who. But actually, this was 74 and 75.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 74, I was playing with John Entwistle and living in England. And The Who had taken a year off because they had just completed the Tommy movie, and they worked the whole 10 years prior, just nonstop. So the guys wanted to take a break, except Entwistle. He just wanted to keep going. So he started his own band, and I auditioned for it amongst 200 guitar players and got the job. And so I was playing in the studio in England with Nicky Hopkins and Entwistle on another project with Alice Cooper. And so what happened was the night they said, we're going to a party, you want to go? And I didn't go, but I wish I had because the Rolling Stones were there and Mick Taylor was. But Mick quit the band at that party. He told everybody he was leaving the band. So the next day, we go back to the studio, and Nicky says, hey, man, I was out with Mick Jagger last night, and I gave him your phone number. I said, why'd you do that, man? I don't want that guy to have my phone number. No. But anyways, we're joking around, and so this was December 15th of 74, and then so I didn't hear anything. So January 30th of 75, the phone rings, and it's my roommate says, hey, telephone. I said, who is it? He says, Mick. Well, everybody I knew that worked for The Who was named Mick. Mick Smith, Mick Ralphs, all these Micks. So I said, hey, Mick, what's happening? I thought it was, Mick Double, that was the Who's road manager. And he started saying, hey, well, can you come to Rotterdam, Holland? And I thought they were playing a joke on me, somebody in The Who. And I said, oh, it's pretty funny. He said, oh, it's really me. And I said, okay, cool. I said, yeah, I'll be on a plane tomorrow, and I'll be there, It
was like I interviewed Morgan Freeman. He got a call he was in Africa doing Mandela. And this guy, he answered his cell phone, and this guy goes, hey, Morgan, this is Clint. I want you to be in a movie. And Morgan said, I hung up on him. He said, somebody jerking me around.
Yeah.
He called back and he goes, damn it, Morgan, don't hang up. This is Clint.
Yeah.
And he said,
that happens a lot, yes. But anyway, it was definitely Jagger. And so I ended up being there. The funny part about that whole story is that Mick had called me, and he didn't tell Keith. And Keith had called Jeff Beck and didn't tell Mick. So I arrived there probably about 8 o'clock in the morning. I leave at the airport at 5:30 or 6. I don't know why, because when I got there, rang his room at the Hilton, he says, "Okay, glad you made it, and we're going to bed now. We'll call you at 5 or 6 in the afternoon." So I'm sitting there. Well, I'll go out and buy a newspaper. I can't read Dutch, and so turn on the TV. There's no subtitles, and walking around and buy a sweater, and rent a bicycle, and looking at the phone. So finally, we got together. But I had booked the last 2 seats on KLM Airlines, which the rest of the day they didn't have any flights. So Jeff had decided to drive over across the English Channel, and the boat goes 15 miles an hour. It takes about 7 or 8 hours
to get across.
He didn't get there till probably 11 o'clock at night, and by then we'd already been playing for 3 hours. And then he hung around. We probably worked till about 3 in the morning or something, and then he about a half a day the next day. Then he split, and then I stayed for 5 days.
Wow,
which is a pretty long time.
Well, what was it like? I mean, and I'm not a musician, so I don't know how this works. You go in and you're playing with a bunch of people you've never played with before, and is it you just gel? Or is it like any relationship? There's chemistry or there's not chemistry?
Well, they figured out, I guess they figured out I was sort of in the ballpark of the kind of people they were looking for. And, of course, playing with the greatest bass player of the millennium, John Entwistle, they knew I had to be fairly good. And so, we just started, playing around. And they were working on a song, and I just kind of fell into it. And then all of a sudden Billy Preston shows up, and then it just took off to another level with the song. They were kind of writing as they went along, it was picking it up and writing. They had the affordability to write it in
as
their
they were
studio,
going, instead of writing it in your room and then going to the studio.
Well, they were sort of exiled and just hanging out all over Europe, but they had a big Mercedes mobile studio with all the finest equipment. They had Glenn Johns, Mr. Big, producer, engineer guy, and they were just traipsing around Europe, Munich, Rotterdam, Paris, whatever, France, and they had their studio with them. It was very luxurious.
Just change hotels.
Yeah, and so we were in this orchestra auditorium rehearsal kind of hall that also had a sort of like a big theater in it as well. So we were just in this big room where an orchestra would normally be, and the studio was outside in the truck, and it was pretty amazing. But so we did all these recordings, and so I got a lot of accolades, got a lot of press all these years, but now I'm actually on the record 50 years later, so it's pretty killer.
Well, it is. We've got some photographs here. We can look at your monitor and tell us what we're looking at. I'm not sure who these folks are.
That's the Isaac Hayes Band, and right behind me to the right is Isaac with sunglasses on, and that's before he started shaving his head.
Oh, wow, that's why I didn't recognize him.
And that's me, obviously, and then to the right in the hat is the famous Johnny Baylor.
Wow.
That's Johnny Keys with the Lays, and over here the guy with the mustache to the left of me is Dino, who was a kind of bodyguard record company guy. Baylor and Dino managed Luther Ingram, who was a great friend and had a few great records out. That's Harold Bean with the glasses and the striped shirt. He was the rhythm guitar. Sidney Kirk in the back. There's Roland Robinson and Benny Maben. We can't hardly see their faces. And the 3 girls are Hot Buttered and Soul, the background singers. Jerry Norris is squatting down. Probably one of the best drummers of all time.
Wow.
And then Roland Robinson, you can't really see him, but he played with Jimi Hendrix and Buddy Miles Express, and he was an incredible musician. So he's no longer with us, but he also wrote the song Infatuation with Rod Stewart, so he was a huge influence on me.
Wow. What a group of people.
Yeah, we play around musicians like that band, so I was already had the jump on most people.
Well, I mean, listen, when you would go meet the Stones, they knew who you were playing with over here, and they had tremendous respect for all these American artists.
Well, the Stones tried to sound like this band,
Yeah.
So.
And this, is it Mark Bolan?
Yeah, that's Mark Bolan from T-Rex, so that's a clear picture there. It looks good. I met him through Jeff Beck's drummer, Cozy Powell, And he asked me to play a demo session with him in London. And that's us in the studio lobby there, getting ready to go in. And that's actually my guitar. And we were getting ready to go in and lay down some tracks.
How old were you there?
22.
Wow.
No, 21. That was right the day before my 21st birthday.
And this is an interesting photograph.
Yep, that's the John Entwistle. That's a photo shoot for John Entwistle's Ox Band, and they just wanted to get us too. I don't know why, but there it is. And I think that's not really an ox. I think it's more of a bull. But
who's going to quibble?
Yeah.
Nobody knows what a blood ox is anyway. And then I guess that's the album cover.
That's one, yeah. Mm-hmm. I think this jacket's over there at the house somewhere.
Inside the store? Wow.
It's a similar jacket.
Oh, it
hanging,
is.
Yeah.
And I love the saddle Oxfords in this shot.
Yeah, it was I don't know what I was in the 50s mode for back then, but I guess people say I started a trend. I don't know how, but I was just digging clothes out of my uncle's closet, you know.
Well, you look good. It's a great album cover. And J.W. Whitten, I've never seen his hair down before. It's always been in a ponytail as long as I've known him.
This is J.W.'s luxurious look, I call it. You know, we were up in New York together. He was working with Jerry Lee, and I'd played a song with Bo Diddley that night at Madison Square Garden.
Wow.
So that was a lot of fun.
We're trying to get JW. Maybe you've got his number. I had it, but I call it now, and it doesn't go through.
Maybe I should call him on air.
Well, we should. JW, get over here. He has to have some incredible stories.
Oh, yeah. We've been friends since, I think, 72 or through 72 is when I met him. And he's a very amazing man, very well seasoned.
Because Jerry Lee was not the easiest person to get along with, and yet he went everywhere with him. He was always there, and
he knew how to handle him.
He did. He really did.
Did a great job.
And this one is. It looks like was this at Ardent?
No, this is at Fantasy in Berkeley, California. That's Greg Rowley from Journey and Santana.
Oh, wow.
That sang Black Magic Woman.
Super Santana signed to do the Super Bowl halftime?
Yeah. That's the original guy right there.
Wow.
And then this is Richie Corsello, a very famous engineer, and John Nyman, who was in a band called 415. We were recording a Eddie Money track that day, and I don't know where Eddie is, but he's somewhere around the studio hobbling around. I was producing. I wasn't playing. That's Robert Earle, the CEO of Hard Rock Cafe, that bought the Hard Rocks from Isaac Tigert.
Wow.
And he hired me to be the music director for the Hard Rock at the opening in Orlando, June of 1990. So I put together a show with all kinds of people, Greg Allman, Spencer Davis, Toy Caldwell, Marshall Tucker, Donnie Osmond. We had all kinds of people coming and hanging out. And
really?
So I put together this really big show. Then he said, could you get ZZ Top? And I said, probably can. So 3 months later, I went down and had ZZ Top play down there, and I had Little Milton and Willie Cobbs and Lonnie Mack. And so my band backed them up, and then I'm laying in the dressing room, and Billy Gibbons and his manager, Bill Hammer, throwing water on me, saying, get up, son. You're going to be the fourth top tonight. You're going to be the first person to ever play with ZZ Top. I said, oh, man, why would it have to be now? I'm totally worn out. Anyway, I got it together and popped on stage. And so I do have that on video. And I also recorded all that, so I have the missing ZZ Top live album that'll probably come out next year.
There's a great documentary I saw a couple of years ago on ZZ Top, a great little blues band from Texas, which really tells their whole story. And if you haven't seen, I think you get it on Netflix. It's a great story, great people. I know you're really close with Billy, and the most down-to-earth person that's in the music business I think I've ever met. I mean, he's just, Billy.
I was just with him night before last in Nashville. We were at a big event there, and it was a lot of fun.
Well, he's incredible. Here he is, Billy, as we speak about him. And is that a Flower Power guitar there?
That's a guitar that I gave him. I gave him that on September 6th when he was here. And then last week I gave him a matching bass guitar I had made. And that's Billy and us in Nashville. Yeah, at the Brooks Sutton studio, the studio in Nashville. And that's Albert King's actual guitar.
Wow.
This is a great story. So I own the Missing Stax Records Albert King album. Stax was having money problems, and Albert wouldn't work here, so they subcontracted it to Muscle Shoals, Alabama, and got Jimmy Johnson and this Muscle Shoals Swampers to cut the record. Well, Albert went down there and started singing it, and they didn't have his money together, so he only did half of the record and left. So they decided to keep going and playing the whole record, thinking that he would come back if Stax would pay the bills. Well, they never paid the bills. So I ended up paying the bills, and
you got the record.
So obviously Albert's not with us anymore, so I had Billy finish it out. But the funny part about that guitar is about 2 months before we went to the studio, it came up for auction at Julian's auction, a friend of mine's auction company. So I called him up and I said, listen, I can't come to be there live, but I want to be on the phone bidding. I said, I'll be on the phone, just keep bid. I'm going to buy that guitar. So I just said, I'm here, just keep going, So I ended up winning it. So when Billy showed up at it was very emotional, because Billy had that made for Albert and presented it to him here at the Peabody in 1986, and for his birthday. And so it was a big deal, and Billy just paid for it out of his own pocket and gave it to him. So Albert had it till he died, and he gave it to his cousin that was in the band a week before he died. So he had it all these years, and then it came up for auction. So I bought it, so when we went in to do the Albert King record, I didn't tell Gibbons I had it. So I had it sitting there, and I had bought Albert's hat and big jacket with his initials on it at his estate sale. So I had that on a mannequin, and he comes in the studio, and he's got his guitar. I said, man, you better just leave that guitar at the door. He goes, what you got, man? I said, well, I can't tell you everything, but you can come in the studio and look. So I look in his eyes, just got big, and he said, well, I guess I'm playing this tonight. So he played Albert's guitar on the Missing Albert King records, which I thought was the coolest thing.
Very cool story. It is exciting to see somebody that has everything that you could make that happy.
Yeah.
So that was
a very special moment. Yeah.
Very, very cool. And here's one of you, and Ann Wilson?
Yep, Ann Wilson. She's a good buddy, and she is a national treasure. I had her sing on the background on the Albert King record with Billy.
And then this is somebody you're working with now as well.
Tanya Tucker. Yeah. And I had her sing with Ann Wilson with Billy. So it sounds like, Mad Dogs and Englishmen with Joe Cocker, the screaming banshees in the back. But, I mean, they sound great. I mean, they are absolutely stunning.
And this back to where we started.
That's I don't know where you got that. That's the actual record, because this is all new. The albums are black and blue marble, and there I am, finally on some vinyl. 50 years later.
Rob found that, so he's a great producer as well as you are.
I know Rob. He's good at finding stuff.
Yes, he is, and fixing stuff, which is what his main job is here. Is can you fix it? You're producing a lot now. That's your kind of your main focus, is that?
Yeah, just that, and we got a record label, Regent Sound. You can check it out, regentsound.com, and we've got a record coming out with Little Anthony. We got obviously some more tracks with Tanya Tucker, and we got the Billy Gibbons, Albert King. It's going to be called Chronicle 2, because there was a famous Stax record out, one of the last ones they did, which had Albert King on one side and Little Milton on the other. I don't know if you remember it, but it was two-sided album cover, and very well done. So we're going to call this Chronicle 2. And so we're just, getting that all ready to release in March.
Well, I thoroughly enjoyed having you come on. I'd like to do it again with anything else you're working on because this is a great music town, and most of the people here, the TV stations don't pay any attention to them. Radio doesn't pay. They can't do interviews on most radio stations. And so I try to have as many music people on as possible because, you're a great musician and a great part of music history. And so you're a treasure to Memphis, and I thank you for coming on.
Glad you're keeping the legacy alive. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll do it again. As our show for today, thank you for checking in. You can also catch it on YouTube and Spotify after today's show. See you next time.